So part 3 is going to be a little bit different. We're not actually doing much in the actual editor. We're going to be modifying the interface to look a lot different. And the way you do this is actually pretty much editing files in Notepad. And this is something Blizzard let us do in 1.2, is to edit the way the layout of the interface is. So we still have all the default elements. We just sort of switch around the way they look. And it's pretty cool that they let us do that. There's still some limitations, but you can get a lot of freedom with moving stuff around. So the first, say we have the map that as of part 2 in the tutorial. This is how it is. You have your map, and you want to start manipulating the Blizzard interface around. So the first thing you do first thing I would do is go online and go to sc2mapster.com, and then ignore whatever is on the front page. Actually, check it out. There's usually something good. And then go to forums, and right now under tutorials, and you can actually see it here. This is the tutorial I'm looking for. And click on page 1 here. And Hellrel was nice enough to figure all this stuff out, and this tutorial actually exists because he figured out the basic how to actually do it. So I thank him for that. And if we go click on this link here, which I should just have that link, but anyways, we can get all the files. So click on this button to download SC2 layout files, and you can see them all here. So this is stuff he's extracted that just saves us the time of doing it. So we just click on that, download it, save it to your desktop or somewhere easy. Okay. Sure, I'm going to hit yes and close. Okay, so now that you've downloaded it, you're good to go. And I'm just going to put this back to Google here so that it doesn't lag with ads or anything. So now just go find out wherever you downloaded it, and drag it into Notepad. Okay, so once you have it extracted and you have it like that, and you got a blank Notepad slate here, you can see all the files here. It did take a lot of playing around on my part to actually figure out what each thing is for and what each thing corresponds to, and there's still a lot I don't know, or Hellrel doesn't know. But anyways, the first thing we're going to do is modify the action squares, ability squares on your bottom right of your normal Blizzard interface to be spread out into one long strip. And the way we do that is we drag MinimapPanel.sc2layout into Notepad, or you could just open Notepad and open it like that way. So you'll see the frames here. This is the template for the this one here is for the tooltip when you mouse over an ability. These are the actual buttons, all 15 of them, and there's some stuff down below too. So because it's by default a 5x3, Blizzard has it set up in 5x3, you'll see that command button 5 is relative to command button 0. So Hellrel has a good explanation on that page that I opened on SC2 Mapster, but basically it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So they're sort of 5 by 3, 5 by 5 by 5 in the rows. So what we want to do, and maybe I should just explain what these are. This line here is going to anchor the top side, so the top of the window, to be relative to the parent, which is this thing, which this doesn't matter too much. Position is minimum, meaning the very top of the screen. And offset is command button gap, which is specified to be 1 here. So it's a very small offset. It's like 1 pixel. And then the left side is anchored to the parent at the minimum position, so it would be on the very left here. And offset only by 1. So you could have this, and then after this, for instance, you could put, I don't know why the tabs don't line up there. You could put width equals whatever, 45. This isn't the actual how you write it, but there is a way to type that. Or you could anchor the right side to something, or you could anchor the bottom. So there's 4 sides, and you're allowed to, I could copy this, and I could anchor the right side to be relative to the max offset of -30. So that would put the right wall of this frame to be about right here on my screen, because I just anchored the right side to the max, which is here, and then I subtracted 30. So you can anchor as many or as few sides as you want. And in this case, they only anchor to the top. They only anchor the top to the minimum point and the left to the minimum point. So that's what they did. And all we want to do first is that if you see command button 1 here, it's relative to command button 0. Command button 2 is relative to command button 1. So wherever this is going to set where this is offset to, where this is offset to, where this is offset to, where this is offset to. But then you'll notice a difference here is that command button 5 is actually relative to command button 0 because it's a new row. So all we have to do is change this to be 4 here, and now it's positioned beside it because all of these are relative to each other. And the same thing for number 10. Instead of relative to 5, it should be relative to 9. And now, whether or not you can imagine it or see it in game, it's actually going to be a long strip of abilities now rather than the square that's by default down here. So let me open these. Let's see. So now that we've done that, let's scroll back up here and change command button 00 to have an top offset. And these are just numbers that I've worked out are good. Instead of command button gap, change it to be 30. And command target prompt, where's that? Here it is. Command target prompt is like when you hit blink, it'll say select a target to blink. That little select a target to blink text is what this is here. And I just had to, that's just something I had to figure out. And we want the top offset to be 0. And we're going to save. And let's see, so now what I didn't change here is that this offset needs to be 0, I think. Let me just look at what Hellrail did. So we changed the relative to be from 0 to 4 here, so it's relative to the 4th button instead of the 0th. Then after that, we need to change the top position to be minimum. Okay, that's good, just like these ones have, so that it's at the top of this frame. The command frame by default is like a square about this big, I think. So the minimum would actually be here, not at the top of your screen. I hope that makes sense, the way this works, because this frame command panel, all of these frames are inside it, and the size of the actual command panel frame is specified in a different file, which we'll look at in a sec. Game UI, actually, the game UI file. But within this, I know that these numbers end up working out quite well. So we set this relative to minimum on the top, so it's at the very top of the frame, like it should be, like all of these other buttons are. And we want to make the offset to be 0. Although it is just 1, but it'll be slightly off, which is not good. And then we got to do this for number 10 as well. Here we go. Let's make that min and make this offset of 0. So it's like the other ones here. And then you want to set the left position to be max because it's on the right now, and the offset to be this thing. So we're just kind of making it look like the other buttons basically for 5 and 10 because they were wrong. Oops, max and offset. So now they all sort of look the same: 0, 0, min max, 04, 03, 02. So now it's just one long horizontal row of buttons instead of the 5x3 by default. And command tooltip, we want to do something with this too. Sorry about that. The tooltip will be in a bad spot after we did all this modifications because it was quite a big change. So we want to change the bottom offset here to be negative 100, I believe is the number I worked out. And we want to change the anchor to be left. So we want it to be on this side of your screen. Or I mean, we just want the left side to be anchored to the minimum here. That's what we want to do. And offset 200. So it's a bit off from the left wall. So we're anchoring the left wall to the minimum of the screen, offset by 200. So in game it'll be about here, and then it's anchored also to the bottom at the max minus 100. And that works out quite well. And we'll save, and now we're going to drag in just drag GameUI.sc2layout over top on there, and now it'll open this file. And here's where we do some pretty big stuff. So scroll down till you find command panel here, and this is where the command panel we just manipulated, but this is where its total size is specified. As you can see, instead of doing 4 anchors, you can do 2 anchors and a width and a height value. And that's what they did here. And so what we're going to change this to be, the width is going to be 1200 because we stretched it into a horizontal row now. Our command panel, instead of being 400 like here, it's going to be 1200 like that, a big horizontal row of buttons. So now we change that to be 1200, and the height value, which is something I worked out that is a good size, is 130. And then next thing we want to change the bottom offset from -18 to 0 because we increased the height. And anchor of right needs to become left because we're anchoring it down here, like I said, to the bottom left of your screen, sort of like WoW has it set up with their action bar. Okay, so left, position minimum. We don't want the left wall to be positioned over here, that would be weird. And offset of, let's see, 250. So it's offset from the left a bit. And that should be good for the command panel. And now the next thing we want to do, we're done with the command panel pretty much, and if I went in game, if I imported this and went in game, you would see it, but I'm going to just do all of it since we're getting pretty close. We're going to move the mini-map, which is normally down here, we're going to move it to the top right. So if you scroll up a bit here, you'll see the mini-map panel is specified right here, which is perfect. So we're going to change the anchor to be to the right, or we're going to change the anchor that we want to be right, positioned at the max. So the right anchor is going to be on this wall, offset of 0, and instead of a bottom anchor, we want a top anchor. We want to anchor the top side to be at the minimum point, which is the top of the screen, and offset 0 for that as well. And then the last thing here is the info panel, and this is when you select a unit, you get to see its name, its HP, its wireframe, energy, that kind of stuff. That's what this specifies. So we're going to get rid of height. And because normally it's about here on your screen where when you click a unit, but we're going to move the wireframe up here. We're going to move the weapon icon down here, and to do that, we're going to move the height like I just did. Then we're going to anchor the left to the min. Instead of mid, let's make it min, and offset of 0. Okay. And then the bottom anchor is going to be relative to the max, which is good, and 0 offset. The right anchor is going to be to the mid, offset of 0. And I'm just going off based off my notes here, so if I sound a bit like kind of dazed, I'm reading my notes. And then we'll copy paste the anchor side right, and now we're going to anchor the left as well. I mean the top, sorry. The top to the minimum, and that's good. Now this frame, which is normally about this size sitting right here, is actually this size sitting on the left, so that we can put the wireframe up here and the weapon and armor icons down here. So we're kind of spreading it out, and that just takes playing around to get it right. Okay, so now we can drag in a different file. Let me make sure I saved. Now let's drag in InfoPanel, it's the specification of the stuff that's within the InfoPanel. So we're on Game UI, which specifies the total size of InfoPanel. And now if we go into our folder here and drag InfoPanel in, it specifies the stuff within it, like the shield label, life label, energy label, unit wireframe, behavior bar, stuff like that. Now we get to the actual like nitty-gritty stuff inside it that we want to change around. So scroll down and find InfoPaneUnit, and this pane has stuff like your attributes, your name, and the weapon and armor icons. And what we're going to do is change it to be anchor side. Let's see, top. We want to change min to mid, offset of 400. And like I said, these numbers are just numbers that I worked out to be worked well, I mean. We don't change this one, and then we'll change the right anchor to be left anchor, and position min, and offset -65. So the left, to explain this, the left wall is positioned at the minimum of the screen, so right here, and offset -65, so it's even off a little bit, and that just works out well because we're going to offset some other stuff to make that work. Okay, and now we're going to save it, and then we're going to drag in InfoPaneUnit, which is the stuff that's inside this one. So now we're even going a level deeper. So drag InfoPaneUnit in. We can see our name label, our equipment panel, which is the weapon and armor icons, the types like your attributes like psionic, biological, robotic. And now inside here, all we want to do is offset where's name label to be, instead of offset by 10 for the top, we're going to make it negative 820. And offset for the left to be negative 30. I think they're negative 30 is good. And now what we're going to do is, because we're going to hide the achievements bar in a few minutes, in triggers we're going to hide the achievements bar, I'm going to actually need to offset the menu bar at the top. This is the stuff at the top left of your screen when you're in game. So we're going to drag in menu bar.sc2layout, and just trust me with this stuff. You'll see when we get in game how good it looks. Find menu button here. Where's menu button? Here it is. So menu button, change the left, let's see, left anchor line to be with regards to not the achievement button. So delete that. So it's relative to nothing else except the very parent of it, the very big frame. And position is going to be at minimum. And offset is 200. So it leaves a bit of a blank space where a unit wireframe will go, if you remember my demo from way back in part 1. And that's all we need to change here. And now let's open resource panel. Because we moved the minimap in the top right, we need to actually move the resources over a bit. So drag resource panel into Notepad. And find the supply label frame, which is this one right here. And find the anchor of right. And we're going to change the offset to be negative 300. And that should be good. And let's save. So because we moved the supply label over by negative 300, you can see that this one is relative to the supply label, and supply icon is relative to supply label, and then this is relative to supply icon, and this is relative to resource label 3. So they're all, thanks to Blizzard making these all relative, all we have to do is change one guy at the top, and all of these things get pushed over, which is great. Saves us a lot of time. So now that's all we have to do in here. We're done with Notepad. We can close this. We can close this. And back in the editor, go open triggers. And in our melee initialization trigger, new action, UI, S, show/hide UI frame. And we're going to hide the achievements menu button for all players. We're going to hide the, let's see, console panel. And we're going to also hide the hero panel, which is that little hero button that appears on the bottom right. It's just annoying for this case here. And this is all great, but we don't actually have our Notepad edited SC2 layouts in the editor. So we click on the import button, right click, import files, click browse, find your UI file that you downloaded, click on the highest level of the UI file that you downloaded, and then uncheck everything and then check at this level. So you want to check off that you have UI layout UI as the things you're importing. It's got to be, if you check it off properly, you should see it exactly like this hierarchy here. It has to be like that. And then click save. And now we're actually done. So let's go in game and see how manipulated or screwed up potentially our inventory is. I mean, not our inventory, our interface. Alright, so we can see that when I clicked on my guy here, I can see his wireframe up here. I can see his weapon, armor, and shields. I get all this action bar, which is spread out nicely here instead of like over here as usual. I can blink, and you see this is moved up. That's why we moved the command target prompt or whatever in command panel way back when. And we got the minimap up here. We got the resource stuff. We can go fight, and I can click on Zerglings 2, and you can see it puts their, shows you their stuff. And this is pretty cool. We get to use the Blizzard interface without actually having to make like too much custom stuff. I mean, I hope that part of the SC2 layouts in Notepad editing wasn't too boring or stuff, but I mean, basically, there's no better way to do it. You have to sit down, drag them in a Notepad, figure out what is what, and then spend 20 minutes going back and forth, dragging those files in to your import in the editor, and then go in game, position this here, go back to Notepad, move it 20 over, and then go back in game, see if it's positioned in the right spot. And as you saw, I was just punching in a bunch of numbers the whole time because I'd saved it all and written it all down. But when I actually to get the interface in this position, it actually took quite a bit of time, quite a few days. That was actually the longest part of this tutorial prep, was putting together the exact numbers to make the interface look like this. And you can see the tooltips in the nice spot too. So that's pretty much it for this tutorial. I hope it wasn't too boring. I hope it was really useful for people to actually make a third-person RPG or a third-person game. Yeah, you can download the map if you don't want to go through the headaches. One thing I will mention before I go is that back in the editor, when you do say after you imported these, checked it out in game, and you want to redo something, make sure you select them all, right-click, remove the files, hit save, and then when you're done editing them back in Notepad, you have to re-import them. So make sure you remove them and then re-import them between each change. So that's why it takes so long to do these layouts, because between each time I would go to Notepad, change a few things, then delete these, then import them again, and it would just be a back and forth thing constantly. But that's what you have to do now, and maybe Blizzard will make it better or cooler in the future, but it is very raw sort of information that you're editing right now. So thanks for watching, and I hope this tutorial blew your mind or was actually pretty cool and useful. So thanks for watching.